And we have viewed airport CCTV security coverage, which shows the left engine detaching from the wing during the takeoff rolls.
The devastating UPS plane crash mystery unfolded when the aircraft's left engine completely detached during takeoff, a rare and catastrophic failure that doomed Flight 2976. The disaster, which occurred on November the 4th at Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport in Kentucky, quickly became the deadliest crash in UPS Airlines history. After reaching an altitude of only about 175 feet and a ground speed of approximately 183 knots, the aircraft's flight path became unrecoverable. How does an engine just detach? What happened inside that cockpit? Stick with me, because the deeper we go, the more unsettling and unbelievable this story becomes. NTSB launches full-scale investigation into UPS crash. A detailed explanation spread across the investigation scene as officials described how the National Transportation Safety Board moved almost instantly after the UPS cargo plane crash and set up a full and structured effort to understand what caused the catastrophic engine failure. Curiosity naturally grew around how such a quick response could unfold after such a large aviation disaster. A simple question floated across many minds. How could any agency mobilize so fast after a crash of that scale? Officials explained that a specialized GO team left for Louisville less than 24 hours after the crash on November the 4th. A total of 28 investigators arrived and stepped into a debris field stretching nearly half a mile, a site filled with twisted parts, scorched panels, shredded wiring, and burned soil immediately revealed the force of the event. Todd Inman served as the spokesperson at the crash location and described the early mission as a race against time. Inman explained that the main goal focused on collecting perishable evidence. Inman repeated that perishable evidence meant any item that could easily fade, break, melt, or disappear before proper teams could study such materials. This included marks on metal, residue on surfaces, fragile wiring, or patterns shaped by heat and pressure. Inman also mentioned that every piece collected would be secured, labeled, catalogued, and transported to various testing facilities where deeper analysis could take place. A question rose quietly in the background. How could a single investigation group manage such a massive scene alone? And just when you think you've grasped the scale of it, the pilot finally cracked the UPS plane crash mystery, and trust me, what they uncovered is far worse than anyone could have imagined. Stick around, because every detail will leave you stunned. Officials answered that several federal agencies stepped in immediately. Assistance came through a long-standing interagency agreement with the FBI, which handled evidence collection tasks, took detailed photographs, and created full maps of the wreckage area. Support also came from the Environmental Protection Agency, which monitored chemicals, fuel leakage, and environmental hazards. Additional support came from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, which provided technical insight into material behavior, burn patterns, and mechanical stress indicators. This range of help created a strong sense that nothing important would slip away from the investigative process. Leadership for the overall investigation rested on the appointment of Chi-Hoon Shin, a professional with 13 years of experience within the agency. Officials explained that Shin previously played an important role in analyzing a deadly mid-air collision earlier in the year in Washington, D.C. That background positioned Shin as a vital guide during this complex investigation. Many wondered silently what kind of mind or training allowed someone to handle such high-pressure work so calmly. Officials answered by pointing to years of experience, engineering discipline, and exposure to difficult aviation cases. The investigation team quickly gained access to airport security footage connected to the moment of takeoff. Officials explained that the footage showed the left engine separating from the aircraft during the climb phase, followed by a large and heavy plume of smoke. This visual detail shocked many, and a natural question surfaced. What kind of failure could rip an engine away during a controlled takeoff? Investigators emphasized that such footage offered critical context for matching physical debris with digital evidence. A major step forward emerged with the successful recovery of both the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder on November the 5th. These devices, often referred to as black boxes, showed signs of intense heat exposure. However, investigators clarified that the heat did not penetrate the internal components. That important detail created hope that the memory modules inside remained intact. Inman explained that confidence remained high about retrieving useful information once the devices reached the Washington laboratory. Analysts immediately extracted more than 2 hours of clear digital audio from the cockpit voice recorder. This audio represented conversations, mechanical sounds, alarms, and background noises from inside the cockpit. Such recordings often unlock important behavioral patterns or warnings that might have occurred during the final minutes of flight. The flight data recorder held even more substantial value. Officials explained that up to 25 hours of data sat inside. This included altitude levels, speed measurements, heading angles, control surface movements, engine readings, and more than 1,000 additional parameters. A simple question formed in many minds. Why would anyone need that much technical data? Officials answered that every number allowed investigators to build a picture of what happened during the entire operation of the aircraft before the crash. Matching physical evidence with recorded data gave the investigation a way to cross-check assumptions and avoid mistakes. Officials explained that a brief preliminary overview could be available within about 30 days. However, full completion of the entire investigation would take close to 1 year. Inman spoke firmly about the responsibility carried by every investigator. Inman explained that speculation served no purpose within such a process. Everything depended on confirmed information and measured facts. This approach ensured accuracy and avoided misunderstanding. A question floated quietly across the investigation scene. Why would such a long timeline matter so much? Officials answered that long investigations protected future passengers, future crews, and future operations. Every discovery and every report shaped new safety rules, improved engineering design, and encouraged better emergency responses. Strong safety cultures came from slow, steady, and careful investigations rather than rushed guesses. Officials also explained that the investigation team worked carefully to preserve evidence while weather, daylight, and environmental factors changed hour by hour. Crews studied soot trails, scorch marks, scattered wiring, and fragments of panels. Crews also analyzed soil disturbance left beneath heavy aircraft parts. Experts from multiple fields consulted on burn temperature, structural stress, pressure patterns, and metal fatigue. Conversations filled the area as specialists pointed out unusual bends, discoloration patterns, and impact angles. Many observers struggled to understand how such tiny details could matter. Why would a small scratch or burn pattern be so important? Officials explained that aviation crashes often left clues hidden in small shapes, faint markings, and thin metal layers. One small pattern might connect directly to a mechanical failure. One tiny scratch might match a moment in the flight data recorder. A slight bend in a panel could reveal load distribution before impact. Every piece served a purpose. The overall investigation process centered on truth, prevention, and understanding. Officials repeated that the real goal involved finding causes and building solutions. Every recorded detail, every measurement, and every recovered part moved the investigation closer to a final answer. As the investigation unfolded, the entire explanation created an atmosphere filled with patience, focus, and responsibility. Every single detail carefully dissected to ensure nothing was overlooked. You could almost feel the weight of it all, knowing that every step taken wasn't just about understanding what went wrong this time, but about preventing another tragedy for years to come. And now we're about to dive into one of the most revealing pieces of this puzzle. Stick with me, because what the black boxes tell us about the crash is as chilling as it is crucial. What the black boxes tell us about the crash. Intensive analysis of the black box information brought a fresh layer of understanding to the UPS Flight 2976 crash and officials explained that the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder revealed details that shaped a clearer picture of the final moments in the air. Curiosity grew quickly as officials described the 2 hours and 4 minutes of clear digital audio captured inside the cockpit, because such recordings often reveal conversations, reactions, and sounds that cannot be found anywhere else. The investigation team concluded that every checklist and briefing before takeoff had been completed correctly, which raised a natural question. How could a properly prepared aircraft face such a catastrophic failure only seconds after leaving the runway? The cockpit audio captured a repeating bell that began sounding 37 seconds after the pilots called for takeoff thrust. That bell continued non-stop for the last 25 seconds of the flight. Inman explained that the pilots tried to regain control during those final seconds, and the audio reflected intense concentration, quick exchanges, and attempts to manage a rapidly worsening situation. Officials described that persistent bell as a warning tone, usually connected to serious emergencies, and many wondered silently whether that bell signaled an engine fire or something just as severe. The flight data recorder provided technical confirmation of what happened outside the cockpit. Analysts explained that the aircraft reached a maximum speed of 183 knots and climbed to an altitude of about 100 feet above ground level before control was lost. Airport security footage aligned with that data, confirming that the left engine detached from the aircraft during the takeoff roll. Recovered parts showed that most of the left engine pylon remained attached to the engine when the separation occurred, which suggested a structural failure at the wing connection instead of a failure inside the engine attachment itself. This detail encouraged one important question. What kind of structural weakness could allow a full engine and pylon assembly to separate from a wing during takeoff acceleration? Officials explained that this question would require deeper analysis using laboratory testing, structural modeling, and metallurgical studies. Even though a few early details had been shared publicly, the full cockpit communication transcript remained confidential, pending a full docket review. Standard procedure required technical specialists to go through the audio, prepare a written transcript, and release that transcript only after most of the factual material entered the public docket. Inman explained that this process would take several months. Observers wondered whether the repeating bell confirmed an engine fire, but investigators avoided any firm conclusion, explaining that a working theory existed but needed more confirmation. Every detail gathered from the voice recorder, the flight data recorder, the debris field, and the structural parts would play a part in testing that working theory. Officials explained that the goal involved building a complete and accurate timeline without leaving room for doubt. Such a process required patience, precision, and careful matching of sound, movement, speed, altitude, stress behavior, and structural failures. Just when everything seemed routine, the flight's story took a chilling turn. What started as a normal journey transformed in mere seconds into an urgent life-or-death scenario. Every detail of the reconstruction paints a tense picture. Alarms, rapid mechanical failures, and split-second decisions that left experts and witnesses stunned. It's not just about what went wrong in the air, it's about the ripple effects on the ground too. Families, communities, and legal teams are all grappling with the aftermath, and the questions keep piling up. Stick with us till the very end, because the fallout that follows is as intense and complex as the disaster itself. Legal and community fallout begins to unfold. In the wake of the UPS Flight 2976 disaster, officials reported that a wave of legal actions quickly emerged alongside urgent environmental remediation efforts, raising questions about responsibility, accountability, and the long road to recovery. Just 2 days after the crash, Morgan & Morgan filed a class action lawsuit against UPS, Boeing, and GE, claiming the companies acted recklessly and negligently, and the filing demanded a jury trial. Why would a lawsuit move so fast? Lawyers explained that families and communities were dealing with sudden loss, injuries, and life-altering trauma, and the legal system often moves quickly in such high-stakes cases to ensure evidence is preserved and rights are protected. At the same time, Clifford law offices began representing several families affected by the crash, focusing on those who lost loved ones or suffered serious injuries, emphasizing that grieving families needed both legal guidance and a voice. Officials also highlighted Boeing's MD-11 aircraft, pointing out its troubling safety record and calling it one of the most accident-prone commercial planes still in operation. Could past incidents have played a role in shaping today's disaster? Lawyers argued that understanding a plane's history was essential in establishing patterns of negligence and ensuring such events could be prevented in the future. Legal actions extended beyond the immediate crash victims to include local businesses and residents whose lives and livelihoods were disrupted. Governor Andy Beshear approved economic injury disaster loans through August 17, 2026, after identifying 57 businesses in the area impacted by the crash, with damages ranging from total destruction of property to significant contamination of working spaces. Why would government assistance be so crucial? Lawyers explained that local economies often face cascading effects after disasters, and small businesses struggle to survive without financial support, creating ripple effects across families, employees, and communities. Whiteford and Peterson law firms took on representation of affected businesses, with managing partner Marston Childers III stating their goal to pursue justice for those whose lives were forever changed, acknowledging that compensation often could never fully repair emotional loss, but might help rebuild tangible damage. UPS, meanwhile, set up a community resource center at 200 High Rise Drive, providing insurance adjusters on site to address individual claims, answer questions, and guide affected parties through complex processes. Could access to resources and immediate guidance help reduce confusion and stress for those navigating disaster recovery? Officials noted that clear communication and assistance were vital to stabilizing the community and ensuring families and businesses knew what options were available. Environmental concerns quickly became another critical focus as the EPA deployed resources under the Comprehensive Environmental Response, Compensation and Liability Act, emphasizing that protecting the environment was just as urgent as caring for human safety. Officials reported that crews recovered 626,819 gallons of an oil-water mixture, which initially spread across a 4.5-mile stretch of water but had been reduced to a sheen over approximately 3 miles, indicating significant progress in cleanup efforts. Why would so much oil contamination be dangerous? Experts explained that oil can suffocate aquatic life, contaminate soil, and threaten drinking water sources, making rapid response essential to prevent long-term ecological damage. The Metropolitan Sewer District was credited with preventing 37,000 gallons of oil from entering Louisville's groundwater. Yet officials still advised residents to avoid contact with water in Pond Creek, Northern Ditch, and Southern Ditch, revealing that environmental recovery remained ongoing and caution remained necessary. Could contaminated water linger even after cleanup? Environmental specialists pointed out that some residues adhere to sediment or vegetation, and monitoring must continue to prevent harmful exposure to humans and wildlife. As legal proceedings and environmental cleanup moved forward, questions about liability, accountability, and community support persisted. Why were UPS, Boeing, and GE all named in lawsuits? Lawyers explained that each company had responsibilities spanning aircraft maintenance, manufacturing, and operational procedures, and courts needed to evaluate how actions or oversights at multiple levels contributed to the crash. Officials reported that families and businesses sought not just financial compensation, but also recognition of the emotional, physical, and economic impact of the disaster, illustrating that legal efforts often served as both protection and validation for those affected. Meanwhile, environmental teams emphasized that swift action was not only about removing oil and contaminants, but also about understanding the long-term impact on local ecosystems and ensuring that water, soil, and wildlife would recover safely. Could the lessons learned from this incident prevent future disasters? Investigators, lawyers, and environmental experts argued that careful documentation, scientific analysis, and legal accountability all played a role in shaping future aviation safety standards, corporate responsibility, and disaster response protocols. Officials reported that both the legal and environmental responses required close coordination among multiple entities, including federal agencies, state offices, law firms, and specialized cleanup crews. Why was coordination so important in this situation? Experts explained that overlapping responsibilities, limited resources, and the urgent need to protect human health and the environment made collaboration essential to avoid duplication, gaps, or delays. Legal teams focused on claims and liability, government offices monitored disaster relief programs, and environmental crews tackled remediation while continuously reporting progress to oversight agencies. Each action, while distinct, relied on the others to create a comprehensive response capable of addressing the full scale of the disaster's impact. Even as lawsuits progressed, cleanup efforts continued to demand attention. Officials reported ongoing monitoring of water quality, soil conditions, and wildlife health to ensure that residual oil contamination did not spread or create secondary hazards. Legal teams, meanwhile, prepared for complex litigation that could determine responsibility for damages, safety failures, and the adequacy of disaster response. How could courts fairly determine accountability in a multi-party case involving manufacturers, operators, and service providers? Lawyers explained that careful documentation, expert testimony, and thorough investigation were crucial to establishing who was negligent, what losses occurred, and how compensation should be structured. Experts explained that accurate, accessible information reduced confusion, anxiety, and misinformation while building public trust in government and corporate actions. Communities directly impacted by the crash were able to access guidance on financial aid, environmental safety measures, and legal representation, creating a more structured recovery pathway. With this, we have come to the end of this video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, do well to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. To enjoy more thrilling stories, click now on the following video that pops up on your screen.